I am Joe Perez, and I'm currently the president of the Hispanic National Law Enforcement Officers Association, and I'm a retired Prince George's County police officer. I support making investigations into police misconduct transparent. The Maryland Public Information Act would enable people in the community or interested parties to get information about law enforcement complaints and use of force cases. It's important that we disclose complaints that normally aren't exposed to the public because they're considered personnel files. Because first of all, for transparency, and second of all, it holds us accountable. If me as a chief of police would be required to allow the public to see these complaints, it's gonna pretty much keep me honest. It builds trust with the community when we're able to see these patterns of officers who are habitual offenders. It helps us to, get rid of problem officers. I think just making the information public is going to make us in law enforcement look at what we do and look at patterns and practices. It's going to draw attention to it a little more, where maybe we wouldn't pay attention to a particular officer that keeps getting complaints, But if I'm required to disclose that information, I'm probably going to pay a little more attention to the names that are coming across my desk. A lot of times as a internal affairs investigator, we would see patterns, officer patterns of misconduct. And what I mean by that is, for example, we received like numerous complaints from various people in different calls for service on one particular officer. And the complaint was always, this officer cussed at me, and then he wanted to fight, and he offered to fight with me and said he'll take off his gun and badge. And when you have 3 different people on 3 different days in 3 different areas saying that this same officer offered them to fight, and take off his gun belt and badge, that shows a pattern. And I think, the making the information public, again, is going to hold us accountable. When, I noticed that we had cases where, a Caucasian officer did something wrong, and then a minority officer did something wrong, and they were similar circumstances, and one officer received, higher penalties or was terminated, and some white officers doing the same things were let off with reprimands. Sometimes the investigations were even dropped. And I think by disclosing this information publicly, this levels the playing field for all of us, because, now all these cases will be in the public eye, and it's a lot harder to discriminate against people and treat people unfairly. I think reforming the Maryland Public Information Act a lot sooner would have prevented incidents such as the William Green incident. He was shot in the front seat of an officer's cruiser while he was under arrest. It would have prevented incidents like the Monte Ward Blake, who was partially paralyzed during a traffic stop, because officers that tend to abuse citizens or have patterns of misconduct, we would have seen that a lot sooner, and it could have prevented some of these high-profile incidents had this Public Information Act been reformed sooner. And it also would have gone a long way in building trust with the community and building better relationships.